from hosting The Late Late Show to starring in films that have captured the hearts of audiences. Craig Ferguson has become a household name, famous for his quick wit and one-of-a-kind style. But beyond all the laughs, there's a deeper story of resilience, love, and unexpected twists. Did you know he's been married 3 times and experienced heartbreak that's helped shape his comedic view of the world? In this video, we're going to take a closer look at the highs and lows of Craig Ferguson's life, reveal the person he calls the love of his life, and explore how his journey from a working-class kid in Glasgow to a comedy legend in the States has influenced his craft. Stick around as we uncover the fascinating story behind one of comedy's brightest stars. Craig Ferguson was born on May 17, 1962 in Stob Hill Hospital, located in the Springburn area of Glasgow, Scotland. His dad worked for the post office and was a passionate Scottish nationalist, while his mum, Janet Ferguson, 1933-2008, was a dedicated primary school teacher. Craig's early years were heavily influenced by his working-class roots, growing up surrounded by the hard-working spirit of Glasgow. When Craig was just 6 months old, his family made a huge move from their flat in Springburn to a house in Cumbernauld, a new town development. This move was part of a bigger plan to rehouse many Glaswegians who had been living in poor conditions or were affected by the damage caused during World War II. Cumbernauld was meant to offer better living standards and a fresh start for families like the Fergusons. As a kid in Cumbernauld, young Craig described himself as chubby and often bullied, which likely had a big impact on the humor and perspective he developed on life. School life wasn't always a walk in the park for Craig. He went to Muirfield Primary School and then moved on to Cumbernauld High School. His time there might not have been the happiest, but he still managed to find his own way. By the time Craig turned 16, he decided school wasn't for him anymore. He left high school and started an apprenticeship as an electronics technician at a local factory. This job marked his first step into the working world and taught him valuable skills, though it wasn't exactly his dream career. Craig wasn't the only one in his family with big dreams and talents. He has 2 sisters, one older, one younger, and an older brother. His younger sister, Lynn Ferguson Tweddle, followed a creative path just like Craig. Lynn is a comedian, presenter, and actress, probably best known for voicing Mac in the 2000 stop-motion animated film Chicken Run. Lynn even worked as a writer on Craig's talk show at The Late Late Show until 2011, proving that the Ferguson siblings shared a true passion for entertainment. Craig's first trip to the United States happened in 1975 when he was just 13. It was an exciting adventure for a young boy from Scotland as he traveled to Long Island, New York to visit his uncle. That trip left a lasting impression on Craig, and the allure of America stayed with him for years. By the time he turned 21, Craig made the bold decision to move to New York City in 1983 to chase new opportunities. Life in New York wasn't glamorous at first. Craig had to work hard to get by, and one of his first jobs was in construction in Harlem. It was tough work, but it gave Craig a chance to experience the city's energy and meet people from all walks of life. New York, with its melting pot of cultures, broadened Craig's perspective on the world. But construction wasn't the only job he took on. Craig also worked as a bouncer at a nightclub called Save the Robots. The club was located in the East Village and was known for its offbeat crowd. This unusual job suited Craig's personality, and it was in these gritty, diverse environments that he honed his wit and ability to handle any situation with humor. These early experiences provided him with plenty of stories that would later fuel his comedy. Despite his efforts to build a life in the U.S., Craig eventually returned to the U.K. His time in America was an important chapter, contributing to his journey in entertainment, even if it wasn't the place where he ultimately settled. Craig's journey into entertainment kicked off in his teenage years when he found his passion for drumming in local punk bands in Glasgow. Music was his first love, and he quickly immersed himself in the city's lively punk scene. One of the first bands he played with was called the Night Creatures, followed by another punk group named Exposure. Craig's talent behind the drums didn't go unnoticed, and he even had a brief stint with the post-punk band Anna Howen in 1981. That year, Anna Howen released a single with Human Records, marking one of Craig's first recordings as a musician. Not long after, Craig joined another punk band called the Bastards from Hell. While the name was perfect for a punk band, they later rebranded themselves as the Dream Boys. What's really interesting is that the lead singer of the band was none other than Peter Capaldi, who would later become a famous actor, most notably known for starring in the Doctor Who. The Dream Boys performed regularly in Glasgow between 1980 and 1982, and during this time, Peter Capaldi encouraged Craig to explore comedy. Peter's influence turned out to be a game changer, pushing Craig in a new direction. At just 18, Craig was already branching out, still passionate about drumming, but also trying his hand at other opportunities. He worked as a session musician and even got to perform alongside Nico from the Velvet Underground when she toured Scotland. Craig was her drummer for a few of the gigs, which gave him a taste of playing for larger audiences, something that would become a key part of his career later on. Although Craig loved music, comedy was calling to him. His first stand-up performance, however, was far from smooth. Like many first-timers, he found it nerve-wracking. The experience left him with a desire to approach it differently, and that's when he came up with the idea to create a comedic character. He developed a persona called Bing Hitler, a parody of the overly patriotic folk singers that were popular in Scotland at the time. The name Bing Hitler was actually inspired by his friend Peter Capaldi, and it became the start of Craig's comedic journey. Craig's first performance as Bing Hitler took place in Glasgow, and to his surprise, it was a big hit. The audience loved the exaggerated character and the sharp satire behind it. Bing Hitler started to take off when Craig performed at the 1986 Edinburgh Festival Fringe. However, by the end of the year, Craig was already talking about retiring the character. He felt that focusing on just one persona was limiting his creativity, and he was eager to explore new comedic paths. Despite Bing Hitler's success, Craig was ready to move on. A recording of Craig's Bing Hitler act was made at Glasgow's Tron Theatre and released in the 1980s, capturing an important moment in his early career. After Bing Hitler, Craig continued to gain traction in the entertainment world. He appeared on TV playing the role of Confidence in an episode of the sci-fi comedy series Red Dwarf. He also made appearances on Scottish TV, including STV's Hogmanay Shows, a popular series of New Year's Eve programs. In 1993, Craig made a memorable guest appearance in the Christmas special of the British sitcom One Foot in the Grave, titled One Foot in the Algarve. As Craig's success on television grew, so did his opportunities. In 1990, he got a chance to star in The Craig Ferguson Show, a one-off comedy pilot that aired on Granada Television. The show featured comedians Paul Whitehouse and Helen Atkinson Wood. While the pilot didn't lead to a full series, it was still a step forward for Craig's career. In 1991, Channel 4 gave him the opportunity to host the Friday at the Dome, a live music show. That same year, he was also given his own show on BBC Scotland called 2000 Not Out. The early 1990s saw Craig exploring various types of television work. In 1993, he hosted The Dirt Detective, a 6-part archaeology series for STV. He also landed his own series on BBC One called The Ferguson Theory. This show was a mix of stand-up comedy and sketches, recorded just one day before airing. The fast-paced format kept the content fresh, and it gave Craig a perfect platform to showcase his comedic skills. Alongside his TV work, Craig also found success in musical theater. In 1991, he took on the role of Brad Majors in the London production of The Rocky Horror Show, a cult classic that allowed him to mix his love of music with acting. In 1994, he played Father Milan and the rebellious Johnny in The Prophets of Doom, a production at London's Union Chapel. That same year, Craig returned to the Edinburgh Fringe to star as Oscar Madison in The Odd Couple, a classic play about two mismatched roommates. After years of living and working in the US, Craig made a notable return to UK television in 2017. For the first time in 25 years, he appeared in a guest role on BBC Scotland's popular comedy show Still Game, which aired in 2018. Craig's move to Los Angeles in November 1994 marked a major turning point in his career. It all started when Rick Siegel, who would soon become his agent, saw Craig perform at the Edinburgh Festival. Impressed by his talent, Siegel encouraged Craig to come to the US for bigger opportunities. Craig took the advice, packed his bags, and headed straight for Hollywood. Craig's first big role in the US came in 1995 on the ABC sitcom Maybe This Time, where he played Logan McD, a baker. He starred alongside TV legends like Betty White and Marie Osmond. While the show didn't last long, it gave Craig his first real taste of working in American television. However, Craig's true breakthrough in the US came in 1996 when he was cast as Mr. Nigel Wick, Drew Carey's over-the-top boss on The Drew Carey Show. This role really put him on the map. Mr. Wick was known for his distinctive English accent, which added to the character's comedic persona. Craig later joked that he used the accent as a playful jab at the many English actors who had butchered Scottish accents over the years. He even mentioned that his inspiration for this revenge came from James Doohan's portrayal of Montgomery Scott in Star Trek. Mr. Wick quickly became a fan favorite, especially for his hilarious and often outrageous ways of firing employees. A recurring gag on the show was him firing someone named Johnson, a generic last name used for anyone who was being laid off. His antics, witty one-liners, and quirky character made him stand out, even after Craig left The Drew Carey Show. In 2003, Craig returned for the final 2 seasons of The Drew Carey Show as a recurring character. One memorable episode stood out when Craig broke the fourth wall, speaking directly to the audience in his regular Scottish accent, which was a fun departure from his character's usual persona. While working on The Drew Carey Show, Craig didn't limit himself to just acting. He used his free time between shooting scenes to focus on writing. Craig wrote and starred in several films, including The Big Tease and I'll Be There. His directorial debut with the I'll Be There was particularly notable, as it earned him several audience awards for Best Film at festivals in Aspen, Dallas, and Valencia. He was also named Best New Director at the Napa Valley Film Festival. Craig humorously notes that, like many in the film industry, he wrote a bunch of scripts that never made it to production, but he was paid handsomely for them. In addition to his work behind the camera, Craig's acting career continued to flourish. He appeared in a range of films, from comedies to family-friendly adventures. Some of his notable roles included parts in Niagara Motel, Lemony Snicket's A Series of Unfortunate Events, and The Ugly Truth. Craig also ventured into voice acting, lending his voice to popular animated films like How to Train Your Dragon and its sequel, How to Train Your Dragon 2, as well as The Brave and Winnie the Pooh. His voice work introduced him to a whole new generation of fans. Aside from acting, Craig's stand-up comedy career remained successful. He began touring across the United States and Canada in the late 2000s, performing at major venues like Carnegie Hall and Radio City Music Hall. His stand-up specials also gained popularity, with 2 airing on Comedy Central: A Wee Bit of Revolution in 2009 and Does This Need to Be Said in 2011. Both specials were later released on DVD in 2013. In 2013, Craig released his 3rd stand-up special, I'm Here to Help You, on Netflix. The special received rave reviews, earning 4 out of 5 stars on Netflix and peaking at number 6 on Billboard's Top Comedy Albums chart. It was even nominated for a Grammy Award in 2014 for Best Comedy Album, a huge honor for Craig. His sharp wit, clever humor, and unique storytelling style resonated deeply with audiences worldwide. In December 2004, CBS made an exciting announcement. Craig Ferguson would take over as the host of The Late Late Show, replacing Craig Kilborn. For Ferguson, this was a major opportunity, marking his first episode as the regular host on January 3, 2005. From the outset, the show set itself apart from other late-night talk shows with its fresh, unique style that emphasized Ferguson's distinct personality and humor. Unlike traditional talk shows, The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson did not feature a human sidekick. Instead, Ferguson brought in quirky companions, which gave the show a more offbeat and whimsical feel. One of the standout additions came in 2010 with the introduction of Jeff Peterson, a robot skeleton operated by remote control. Jeff became a beloved character, adding cheeky humor and engaging in funny banter with Ferguson. Another memorable companion was a pantomime horse costume, which required 2 silent performers inside. These unusual and unexpected elements gave the show a fun, unpredictable vibe that made it stand out from more conventional late-night formats. One of the defining features of Ferguson's hosting style was his approach to the monologue. Unlike other late-night hosts, like Johnny Carson, who would speak from a distance, Ferguson delivered his monologues just a few feet from the camera, creating a more intimate and personal connection with the audience. It often felt like he was having a casual conversation with viewers at home, rather than performing for a studio crowd. His monologues were frequently unscripted, making them feel genuine and heartfelt. This personal touch helped Craig build a loyal fan base who tuned in to see his honest, funny, and thoughtful takes on current events, life, and his own experiences. The Late Late Show became a solid contender in the competitive world of late-night television. During the 2007 season, the show averaged 2.0 million viewers, slightly behind Late Night with Conan O'Brien, which had 2.5 million viewers. However, things began to shift in 2008. In April of that year, The Late Late Show overtook The Late Night in the ratings for the first time, drawing 1.88 million viewers compared to Conan O'Brien's 1.77 million. This was a significant achievement for Ferguson, demonstrating that his unique style was resonating with a growing audience. Ferguson's success continued into 2009 when he topped the Late Night with Jimmy Fallon in the ratings, receiving a 1.8 rating compared to Fallon's 1.6. At this point, Ferguson had firmly established himself as a major player in late-night television. His witty humor, unscripted interviews, and unique style won over viewers, with many appreciating the casual conversational feel of his interviews, which contrasted with the more formal approach seen on other shows. However, by 2014, Ferguson's ratings began to decline. The Late Late Show averaged 1.35 million viewers, trailing behind The Late Night with Seth Meyers, which pulled in 2.02 million viewers. Despite the drop in ratings, Ferguson remained a beloved host with a dedicated fan base. His monologues, interviews, and interactions with his quirky sidekick Jeff the Robot continued to be highlighted, and his authenticity and charm kept him a favorite among viewers, even as the show's numbers began to dip. On April 28, 2014, Craig Ferguson made a surprising announcement that shocked his fans. He was leaving The Late Late Show at the end of the year. His final episode aired on December 19, 2014. Initially, his contract was set to expire in June 2014, but Ferguson agreed to a 6-month extension to allow for a smoother exit and to give CBS time to find a new host. His departure was a bittersweet moment for many fans who had grown fond of his offbeat humor and genuine personality. Speculation surrounded his exit, especially when David Letterman, the longtime host of The Late Show, announced his retirement. Many thought Ferguson might be considered to replace Letterman. However, CBS ultimately chose Stephen Colbert to take over the slot. Some reports suggested that Ferguson received $5 million as part of his contract, possibly related to his not being selected as Letterman's successor. Ferguson had already decided to leave The Late Late Show before Letterman's announcement, but he agreed to wait until the excitement around Letterman's retirement had settled before making his decision public. When Ferguson's departure was officially announced, CBS Entertainment chair Nina Tassler praised him for his work over the past decade, highlighting his tremendous energy, unique comedy, insightful interviews, and some of the most heartfelt monologues seen on television. Ferguson's tenure on The Late Late Show left a lasting impression on both the network and his audience. He had carved out a distinct space in late-night TV, offering something different from the typical late-night format. After Ferguson's departure, CBS continued The Late Late Show with James Corden as the new host. Corden brought his own style to the show, but Ferguson's impact on late-night television, particularly his mix of heart, humor, and authenticity, remains fondly remembered by his fans. Despite battling personal demons during his time on the show, Craig Ferguson's unique approach to late-night television continues to be celebrated. In his memoir, Riding the Elephant, Craig Ferguson opens up about his long struggle with alcoholism and how it nearly destroyed both his life and career. With remarkable honesty, he shares the journey from addiction to recovery, emphasizing that sobriety is not a fairy tale happily ever after. Instead, he describes it as a lifelong process filled with ongoing challenges that require constant effort and vigilance. Long before finding success in the United States, Ferguson's battle with alcoholism was severe. His drinking habits became so destructive that he resorted to using drugs like cocaine just to continue drinking. This dangerous cycle almost cost him everything. In 1993, a year after quitting drinking, Ferguson moved to the United States, hoping for a fresh start. He notes in his memoir that, in America, no one cared about his past struggles with addiction or his social background, which provided him a sense of relief. Reflecting on the toll alcohol had taken on him, Ferguson candidly writes, "Alcohol ruined me financially and morally, broke my heart and the hearts of too many others." Despite being sober for many years, he admits that he sometimes still wonders if he could drink again, though he recognizes these thoughts as irrational. He fully subscribes to the notion that alcoholism is a mental illness, acknowledging that such thinking is clearly a sign of the disease. The memoir offers a raw and powerful look at the challenges of addiction, recovery, and the enduring impact it has on one's life. One of the lowest points in Craig Ferguson's battle with alcoholism came on Christmas morning in 1991. After a brutal all-night drinking binge, he woke up in a storeroom above a pub in London, drenched in his own vomit and urine. At just 29 years old, Ferguson felt completely lost and broken. Overwhelmed by despair, he made the decision to end his life by jumping off the Tower Bridge into the Thames River. As he stumbled out of the pub determined to carry out his plan, the barman stopped him and offered him a glass of cherry to celebrate Christmas. Ferguson, in his intoxicated state, accepted the drink and got so drunk that he forgot all about his suicide attempt. Later, reflecting on that moment in an interview, he said, "I remember thinking even at the time, if alcohol tastes this good and it feels this good, there's probably something wrong with me." For the next few weeks, Ferguson continued drinking heavily, and his life became a blurry haze of benders that he could barely remember. But eventually, he reached a breaking point. Realizing that he could no longer continue down this path, he called a friend who had been part of the same pub scene but had managed to get sober. When Ferguson told his friend that he needed help, the friend simply replied, "I've been expecting this call," and helped him get into a rehab program. This turning point marked the beginning of Ferguson's journey to sobriety, although it was a process filled with challenges, doubts, and realizations that would change his life forever. February 18, 1992 became Craig Ferguson's official sober date, marking a significant turning point in his life. While in rehab, his roommate was a 65-year-old veteran, a fact he mentions to highlight the diversity of people affected by addiction. This experience taught Ferguson that alcoholism doesn't discriminate. It can impact anyone, regardless of background or status. Ferguson doesn't claim to be an expert on addiction, but he firmly believes that the idea of alcoholism being cured by a brief rehab stay is a myth. He views alcoholism as a chronic condition that requires lifelong management, and he stresses that rehab is just the beginning of a much longer journey. For him, staying sober means taking full responsibility for his condition and continually working to maintain it. He also recognizes how widespread alcoholism is, noting that nearly everyone knows someone who struggles with addiction, whether it's a coworker, family member, or friend. In his experience, dealing with alcoholism isn't about wealth or status, but about connecting with others who understand the challenges and supporting each other through recovery. One of Ferguson's most powerful insights is that his problem wasn't just with drinking, but with his way of thinking. Even after more than 24 years of sobriety, he admits that if he could drink again, he would. But he knows that he can't. He believes that certain people, like himself, simply cannot handle alcohol, and that accepting this fact is key to staying sober. Although Ferguson has been sober for many years, he's honest about the ongoing challenges of living in recovery. He openly shares his story to offer hope to others facing similar struggles, helping to reduce the stigma around alcoholism. His memoir serves as a reminder that recovery is possible, but it's a continuous process that demands hard work, support, and self-awareness. Craig Ferguson's journey in love and marriage has been marked by ups and downs, reflecting the complexities of balancing a successful career with personal relationships. His first marriage was to Anne Hogarth in 1983. At that time, Ferguson was just beginning his entertainment career and was far from the famous late-night TV host many know today. The couple lived in New York City, but their marriage ended in divorce in 1986 after just 3 years. Little is known about Anne as she kept a low profile, but during their marriage, Ferguson struggled with addiction and maintaining a stable career. His memoir, American on Purpose, reveals that his chaotic lifestyle in the 1980s, marked by drugs and late-night partying, likely contributed to the marriage's breakdown. Ferguson's second marriage was to Sasha Corwin in 1998. Sasha, an independent and strong woman, is the founder of the Spy School, a gym in Los Angeles that offers unique James Bond-like training experiences. Together, they had a son, Milo Hamish Ferguson, born in 2001. Despite their divorce in 2004, Ferguson and Corwin remained dedicated to co-parenting Milo. They lived close to each other in the Hollywood Hills to ensure a stable environment for their son. Today, Milo is all grown up and pursuing his passion for the arts, attending the prestigious School of Visual Arts in New York City. Although Ferguson and Corwin's marriage did not last romantically, their strong co-parenting relationship has been a testament to their commitment to providing a healthy and supportive environment for their son. Before getting sober in 1992, Craig Ferguson was in a significant 5-year relationship with actress Helen Atkinson Wood. He credits Helen with helping him turn his life around, noting in his memoir that she made a lasting impact on his health and career. Although their relationship ended before he became sober, it was a time of personal growth for Craig, and Helen played a significant role in that transformation. In 2008, Craig married for the third time, this time to Megan Wallace Cunningham, an art dealer from Vermont. Their wedding, which was private and intimate, took place on Megan's family farm in Chester, Vermont during a snowy winter. The couple kept their marriage quiet until Craig humorously announced the happy news on The Late Late Show. Today, Craig and Megan are happily married and raising their son, Liam, while keeping a low profile and focusing on family life and their work. Craig often reflects on how far he has come, especially considering his earlier struggles with addiction and mental health. He has said that getting sober and becoming a father were two of the most important milestones in his life. Through his career and personal life, Craig has not only made us laugh, but also inspired others with his resilience and personal journey. With his continued success in the entertainment world and a strong family foundation, Craig Ferguson's story is a testament to growth, perseverance, and the many forms of love. Fans look forward to seeing what the future holds for him.